What if I told you that the first civilization on Earth appeared almost out of nowhere, fully formed thousands of years ago, with knowledge and skills that still baffle modern scholars? Imagine it. One day, humanity was scattered in small tribes, surviving through hunting and gathering. And then, in a land between two rivers, a people emerged who suddenly built vast cities, invented writing, advanced mathematics, astronomy, and even complex laws. They were called the Sumerians. But here is the mystery: no one knows where they came from, or how they acquired knowledge so advanced for their time. Could the first civilization have had help from an unknown source? The Sumerians thrived in Mesopotamia, the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now Iraq. Historians mark their rise around 4500 BC, yet they appeared with astonishing speed, establishing cities like Uruk, Ur, and Eridu, some of the world's very first true urban centers. Unlike other cultures that gradually developed over millennia, the Sumerians seemed to leap forward in a single bound. They gave us cuneiform, the earliest known form of writing. They created schools, taxes, trade systems, irrigation, canals, and massive temples called ziggurats that rose like mountains of stone into the desert sky. But the question remains: how did they know so much so soon? Their own stories may hold the answer. The Sumerians wrote that their knowledge was not invented by humans, but gifted by gods who descended from the heavens. These gods, called the Anunnaki, taught humans the arts of civilization. In the ancient texts, it is said that the city of Eridu was founded under divine instruction, and kingship itself was handed down from above. Are these myths merely symbolic, or do they preserve echoes of a forgotten truth? Some believe the Anunnaki were simply religious figures imagined to explain the Sumerians' sudden brilliance. But others suggest something far more mysterious, that these gods might have represented visitors, not of this earth. Consider this. The Sumerians mapped the heavens with extraordinary precision. They tracked the movements of planets, recognized the difference between stars and wandering celestial bodies, and even recorded advanced astronomical cycles that should have been impossible without telescopes. One clay tablet describes the planet Pluto thousands of years before modern science discovered it. Another depicts a solar system with all the planets in their correct order, including some unseen to the naked eye. How could they have known? Did they inherit this knowledge from a source we no longer understand? Their mathematics, too, was centuries ahead of its time. They developed a sexagesimal, or basic-D system, which is why we still divide hours into 60 minutes and circles into 360 degrees today. This wasn't a coincidence. It was deliberate design, rooted in a system so advanced it continues to shape our daily lives thousands of years later. And then there are the stories. One of the most chilling Sumerian texts is the Epic of Gilgamesh, considered the oldest surviving story in the world. In it, Gilgamesh seeks immortality and encounters tales of a great flood sent by the gods. This flood myth, strikingly similar to the biblical story of Noah. suggests that the Sumerians carried memories of a cataclysmic event that reshaped human history. Archaeologists have even found geological evidence of massive flooding in Mesopotamia, supporting the idea that such a disaster did occur. But how much of their story was memory, and how much was myth? Even their laws were far ahead of their time. Long before Hammurabi's famous code, the Sumerians had established rules of justice, property, and commerce. Clay tablets describe contracts, marriages, even punishments for crimes, all in a society that seemed to appear almost instantly out of nowhere. Compare this to other parts of the world, where humanity was still developing simple agricultural villages, and the mystery deepens. How did the Sumerians advance so rapidly without a clear path of gradual evolution? Some researchers argue that their origins lie with even older, hidden cultures. Could the Sumerians have inherited the legacy of a civilization lost to history, perhaps one destroyed in the Great Flood? If so, their brilliance might not have been a sudden miracle, but the continuation of knowledge stretching back into prehistory. Others go even further, connecting the Anunnaki myths with theories of ancient extraterrestrial contact. According to these ideas, the gods who came down from the heavens were not divine beings, but travelers from the stars who gave early humans a push toward civilization. While mainstream historians dismiss such theories, they cannot deny the mysteries left behind in Sumerian records. Imagine standing in the ancient city of Uruk, surrounded by towering walls said to have stretched for miles. The air filled with the chants of priests in the ziggurat, offering sacrifices to gods who once walked among them. Merchants crowd the streets, selling barley, wool, and lapis lazuli, while scribes carefully press wedge-shaped marks into clay tablets records that would survive thousands of years. Now imagine all of this happening over 6,000 years ago, when the rest of humanity was still scattered in primitive huts. How could the Sumerians be so far ahead? Before we continue deeper into their secrets, let me pause for a moment to ask you something important. If you're fascinated by this journey into hidden history, if you're intrigued by the mysteries the world has forgotten, I invite you to join us here on Mysteries of Time. A simple like, a comment sharing your thoughts on the Sumerians' origins, and subscribing to the channel not only helps this community grow, but ensures you'll never miss another deep dive into the shadows of history. And trust me, what's coming next is something you don't want to miss. Now, let us return to Mesopotamia and the secrets buried beneath its sands. Archaeologists have unearthed tens of thousands of Sumerian tablets, but only a fraction have been translated. Each new discovery opens a window into a civilization that feels both familiar and alien. In their myths, the Anunnaki are described not as vague spirits, but as powerful beings with personalities, rivalries, and purposes. Some ruled over the skies, others over the earth and waters. According to these texts, they not only gave humanity knowledge, but also shaped our destiny, choosing which kings would rule and which cities would rise. Were these stories allegories for natural forces or detailed memories of interactions with something otherworldly? Consider the Sumerian king list, a mysterious record of rulers stretching back thousands of years before the first known cities. It lists kings who reigned for impossibly long lifespan stems of thousands of years before a great flood swept over the land. After the flood, the reigns of kings became shorter, more human. Mainstream historians often dismiss these early entries as myth. But what if the king list preserved a distorted memory of a time before history when beings not quite human walked the earth? Could this be the faint echo of a forgotten chapter in human evolution? The more we uncover, the more questions arise. Why did the Sumerians disappear so suddenly? Around 2000 BC, their civilization began to decline, overtaken by neighboring powers like the Akkadians and Babylonians. Their cities crumbled, their language faded, and yet their influence never vanished. Babylonian mythology borrowed heavily from Sumer, as did the Hebrews, the Greeks, and countless others. In a way, the Sumerians live on inside every story of gods, floods, and celestial mysteries we tell today. Perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. Were the Sumerians truly the first civilization, or merely the first we remember? Did they invent their brilliance, or inherit it from an older, forgotten world? And when they spoke of gods descending from the heavens, were they only weaving myths or recounting truths we have yet to understand? As you think about this, imagine the countless clay tablets still buried beneath the sands of Iraq. Locked inside them may be answers that could rewrite everything we know about history. Perhaps one day those secrets will be uncovered. Until then, the Sumerians remain both the dawn of civilization and one of history's deepest enigmas. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the shadows of time. If you enjoyed unraveling the mystery of the Sumerians, you'll love exploring our other stories, from the secrets of ancient Egypt to the lost city of Atlantis, to the dark mysteries of forbidden texts like the Voynich manuscript. Subscribe now, and together we continue peeling back the layers of the past to discover the truths hidden beneath. Because here, on Mysteries of Time, history is never as simple as it seems.